This song just reminds me of really good times that I had in Victoria 2. It doesn't remind me of Victoria 3 at all, this song. I used to use this as a stream intro for some streams I did, some campaigns a couple of years ago. The song definitely does a better job of capturing things about the Victorian era than Victoria 3 does, that's for sure. Oh, hello chat. Welcome everyone. I'm not going to let the whole song play out on its own, I'm just going to get into this. I intend to leave this up as a permanent public video on my main channel, so I want to get to some points quickly instead of dragging it out and meandering like I normally do on a stream. But yeah, hello everyone, great to have you in the chat, welcome everyone. My YouTube chat will probably glitch out, but I'll try and keep refreshing it so I can get a general idea of what people are saying. Yeah, it's already freezing and glitching out. The chat that you see on the screen though is fine, that one always works, it's just my own personal chat window that kind of always slows. Anyway, welcome everyone. Today, this stream is going to be a discussion starting off by talking about the post-release dev diary for Victoria 3 that was released yesterday. About 23 hours ago. Mike, fuck off. Someone ban him. Welcome everyone. We're going to talk about that. They made a few statements in that absolutely confirm and attest to and just prove exactly what I said in my famous 100k viewed Victoria 3 War System video. So welcome everyone, we're going to get into that in a moment. Welcome to everyone in the chat that I cannot read right now. The fact that I cannot read the chat is another reason why if you want to ask a really important question, if you want to make a point, please do give a super chat. I'm not going to answer them immediately on the screen as it says in the text there because I want to stay on topic for as long as possible. But I will take intervals, and if I haven't read all the super chats by the end of the stream, I will cover them. So I promise every super chat given on the stream will be answered and thanked. Don't worry about that. I will also thank members at these opportunities, okay? I will also thank the members, and if they have a message with that. Okay, right, let's just get on with it. Let's talk about it. So yesterday, the first post-release Victoria 3 dev diary was released. Dev diaries have not been slowed down or stopped by the fact that the game has released. They are still going full steam ahead with them, as always. That's the Paradox way, they always do dev diaries. Let me just get this on the screen. Here we go. Wait, give me a second, I'm actually going to turn off something. I'm going to turn off the alert for that, sorry, hold on. Just to not distract me with the noises, okay? Very quickly. Start giving it a read while I'm gone, okay? Hold on a sec. Hold on. Okay. So obviously this is the post-release dev diary. They are going to be positive. They're not going to acknowledge the fact that it is 63% reviewed on Steam and it has gone down pretty badly for a lot of people. A lot of negativity on their Steam reviews. They are going to be... It's natural, it's normal, I'm not criticising them for ignoring the negatives. It's absolutely fine that they should just go for the positives, but I just want to balance what is being said here by the fact that it is still 63% positive reviewed on Steam, which is bad. Second worst Paradox review score on a release since Imperator Rome. Just want to say that. But on their dev diary they will be positive. This is Martin himself. Wissington writing all this. So they've released it, you know, the game's released and they're going to be, you know, going forward with patches. They also did a hotfix patch a few days before this. I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, a week after the release, where they fixed a few bugs, tweaked a few things. None of the bugs that were in that hotfix are particularly important to me, nothing particularly that big, you know, just some nice fixes, nothing that I really knew about. That's all good. Nothing to do with the multiplayer criticisms that I put out in the big multiplayer video were addressed though. None of that was fixed, I believe, in case they were. I don't know exactly, maybe they were, some of them. But in any case, the main point of this, and what the main takeaway from this, of course, I mean, look, he says his personal thoughts on the release. Overall, I consider the release a great success. And he focuses on the fact that so many people bought the game, and that is a really great marketing job that Paradox have done. I don't think it vindicates anything. You know, the game has been badly reviewed since, you know, the reviews on Steam. There's two things that I think contributed to how well the game is sold, and that is love for the Victoria franchise because of Victoria 2, and also their absolutely gigantic fucking marketing campaign. How many have refunded it? I don't know, that's not going to be information you're going to find here. But that's all very well. So, this is their image showing the post-release plans. Should I get this on its own tab? Get it nice and big? Oh, no, I'll just zoom in on it. Okay. And basically, right off the bat, I'm just going to go straight away and point out the exact moments, the exact points here. Actually, it's this paragraph that really vindicates something I said. And in my Victoria 3 War video, 100k views, by the way, not a single person from Paradox, no other content creators that I know have actually mentioned my video or addressed any points in it, despite the fact it has 100k views. It's like the elephant in the room that no one's talking about. And that's fine by me. I'm not really complaining. The fact that that video is there and has 100k views is just, you know, great. Ah, yes, JC points out in the chat that someone called Montu Plays mentioned. They didn't mention the video specifically, that person. They just mentioned my general point of view and the Victoria 2 multiplayer community and the backlash sort of view. But still, despite the fact that the actual video wasn't addressed, I am still glad that this person mentioned that there is another point of view in existence. I'm glad someone acknowledged it. 100k views, say it again. Did Tommy K not mention it? I believe Tommy K mentioned the achievements thing, not my actual War System video. Montu's a Stellaris player though. Well, Victoria 3 is probably more for him. Anyway. So, where does this vindicate exactly what I said? Well, in my War System video there is a section called Priorities of Victoria 3, which is like beyond halfway in the video, getting near the end. And in that section of the video I talk about how, based on at least one quote of evidence that I saw from Mikael Andersson, the lead designer of Victoria 3, that I put on the screen in that. And he talked about how the development of Victoria 3's war system was a long, hard road, and how I took that and I, you know, pointed out that it kind of means that they actually spent a lot more time working on this war system than they intended, and how it was more difficult for them. They had a lot of challenges in developing their war system. And I kind of I took the logic of that and what it kind of implied or meant, and I pointed out how this actually had a detriment to the overall development by the fact that this war system took so long to make that it might have actually harmed the work, the amount of time they had and resources for the economy, diplomacy and politics, the stuff that was actually the priority of the game, whereas war was supposedly not a very, you know, big priority. So that was the main overall point of that section. It was actually, now let me just get my exact quote that I've got here. In a later section in the video, towards my more conclusion sections near the end, I say, this is my exact quote: "Since you're not going to be creating an experimental, radical new system that requires starting completely from scratch, leading to a long, hard road full of challenges, you get to put more time and resources into the economy, politics and stuff." That's my exact quote. Now, here you go. This is what Martin Anward says, the lead developer, the Wissington. Please delete people in the chat that are being ridiculous. Thanks, mods. The first of these areas is military. The military system, being very different from the military systems of previous grand strategy games, is one of those systems that has gone through a lot of iterations. That's the key point. That absolutely confirms that this war system took a lot of development, and they went through different iterations of it, as you can see, different versions. They went through, you know, they came up with different ideas, they went through a lot of things, it was difficult for them. Then he goes on to say, "While I believe that we have landed on a very solid core of how we want military gameplay in Victoria 3 to function." Now, before we get to the, you know, the not moving back to tactics quote, the way he words this is kind of interesting, and it also vindicates what I've said. How he says it has landed on a very solid core. So after going through different iterations, he landed on what they want to do for the Victoria 3 war system. When you're developing a game and you're marketing it and all that, do you really want to be randomly experimenting on different war systems and then landing on, which implies randomness, like they happen to land on what they actually want? Is that really good? Is that really what you want to do when there's an obvious compromise and a solid system that people love in Victoria 2 to build on? That's my main point here. Why did they need to do all this? This is all so unnecessary, this big change. Now, the next part of it, which before I go on to the fact that they're not returning to tactics and all that, the next part of it that kind of attests to all this is how shit the war system actually is, even on its own terms, and the fact that it's so buggy, dysfunctional, and completely nonsensical. I'm not going to go into a Victoria 3, I'm not going to load up the game right now and show you that. Other people have talked about this at greater detail than me. For example, Gaku Samarara, whatever, I can't get his exact name right, he put out a video, a 1 hour long video, Big Thoughts on Victoria 3. And in the first section of that video, he really goes into detail on the war system from a lot of different playthroughs that he's done. And he really shows how non-functional and bad the war system is at its current state. One of the main points that Gaku raised that kind of, I realised, oh my god, yeah, that's so true, is Gaku talks about how battles in Victoria 3, they just keep running on until one side completely dies. So the attacking side will not retreat in a disadvantageous attack. They will just keep fighting until they die. The AI, the military in Victoria 3, your general will do an attack outnumbered in bad terrain and just keep attacking. He will not even retreat in a disadvantageous attack. Can't say that word. Not going to try it again. It is so stupid. It does not work. In its current state, it's just... I'm not talking about the direction of the war system. I'm specifically talking about how it doesn't function right now. One battle per front is also another example. Thanks for linking it, Palaya. Everyone, check that out. But not right now. Watch me first. But yeah, one battle per front line is also a ridiculous example of how bad it is, how unfunctional it is. No, you can't reinforce battles, you can't retreat them. A general will just decide, oh, hey, I'm attacking with 10 brigades, battalions, against the enemy's 20 battalions in a disadvantageous terrain into a mountain, and I will just keep the attack going until my armies completely deplete and die. Also, one battle tick per battle. What were they called? Strategic tactics ticks, whatever. You roll one tactic, those little things on the bottom, the little icons like plus 20 morale damage tactics. You roll one of them per battle for the entire battle. Gaku points that out. That is so stupid. And people, I complain about Victoria 2 rolls all the time in battles, and I hate, I've hated how I lose to rolls, and it's so frustrating. And I guess they could have, at the end of the day, I complain about rolls, but it is kind of necessary to add the element of luck and the element of chance into battles, so I'm okay with it existing. But to downgrade it this much in Victoria 3 and have one roll per battle, and it keeps going, and if your guy rolls a disadvantageous fucking battle tactic roll, it'll keep going. Now, those are a couple of the big problems with the war system, and to go back to the overall point I'm making here, the fact that they released the war system in that completely nonsensical, unfunctioning state shows how badly the development of it must have gone in order for it to reach that state. It goes to show how they went through so many iterations and they had a long, hard road of developing it. And it was challenging, and when they did land on the thing they wanted, they didn't even finish it and it ended up being released broken. That completely proves my point in the war system video about how the development of this and the direction that they took caused this. And also, more importantly, to go back from the negative into positive, how my positive vision of the compromise that they could have done, building on the existing systems, taking ideas that have already been done in EU4 and something I didn't really talk about much was how there was a lot of good mission automation in Imperator Rome as well. How they could have just taken stuff they already fucking had and improved on it. Instead of starting from scratch, this didn't have to happen. It just doesn't make any sense. It's so stupid. That is my point. That is what I said in the war system video, but in less detail, and now I'm expanding on it. It's just insane why they went down this route. But yeah. It is what it is. So, anything else to say about that? Any other ideas I had? I got some notes. Anything? Yeah, basically how this was just so unnecessary. It didn't have to be like this. And how they had everything to build on. Specifically in Victoria 2, the systems they already had were Rebel Hunt. Mainly Rebel Hunt shows how they already had a system, a code in Victoria 2 that can turn your units into AI, which means you can automate your units in Victoria 2 already, but only against rebels. I mean, it's so... In Victoria 2, you even probably had... It's so simple, they could have changed something in Victoria 2 to, instead of having Rebel Hunt, they could have just had Enemy Army Hunt, so you could automate your armies completely for wars as well, if you really wanted to. Just a little tweaking of code. Imagine how much easier it would have been to use the Rebel Hunt feature, turn it into just automating your armies for war in general. Imagine how much easier that would have been than the long, hard, challenging road of iterations that they took with this war system. Army Hunt. I think there's stuff like that in EU4, I think there's stuff like that in Imperator. So not only was the system already kind of, you know, in place in Victoria 2 to build on, they did it in other games. Rebel Hunt was DLC content? Sure. Another point, separate. Right, so let's go on to a completely different point here, a little tangent. People saying that I shouldn't compare Victoria 3 to Victoria 2 with DLCs. It's unfair. I have to supposedly compare like for like. I have to compare them on release. That argument is just logically not right. Victoria 2 has DLCs. It is how it is after 2 DLCs now. They have that. They have the state that Victoria 2 is in with 2 DLCs to then build on for the sequel. They do not have to go back to the complete base game with no DLCs and then build on that. This is a fallacy that also happened with CK2 and CK3. CK3 essentially released without any of the content that had been released in CK2 DLCs. They're kind of selling you short, because the content was already there, they did it, they did all this. I don't see why they have to go back and start from scratch all the time, when the DLCs that they did for the prequel added everything, and they can build on the state it's in after DLC. I guess that's what Paradox does, but it's wrong, and they shouldn't do it. That's my argument, and I sort of said that it's not unfair, lol, you can play Vic3 with DLCs and mods now. Yeah, sure, I don't know, I guess you're agreeing with me? Also, while we're mentioning CK3, I actually believe that CK3 had a good release, and as it was on release, CK3 was a game that sort of functioned, it was okay. I wouldn't have negatively reviewed it on Steam or anything, and it also, I believe, got good reviews on Steam, didn't go down to mixed. Because it was just a solid, functional game that did what it set out to do, and it was completely lacking in flavour, completely lacking in content, but it functioned, it was relatively competent, it worked. Somehow they couldn't do that for Victoria 3 because they started everything from scratch. The release of Victoria 3 is a disaster compared to CK3. But like I said, CK3 on release, not negative. Just sort of, you know, average. Functional, competent. I would have rated it like 7 out of 10 or something. I know a lot of people will be more harsh to CK3 on release than that, but the fact that it works and everything. But in any case, that's a tangent. I think I've proven. The last point on that is the comparison. Now this is the kicker, right, by the way. The comparison of budgets between Victoria 2 and Victoria 3. When you realise, like, I don't have any numbers, I kind of task some people with looking for these numbers with Paradox's finances, but it's really hard to find. But it doesn't really, we know that Victoria 3 had an exponentially larger budget than Victoria 2 just from how much the company's grown. They were an indie company at the release of Vic 2, now they are a massive multi-million dollar company at the release of Victoria 3. The comparison of budgets isn't even close, it's just astronomically different. So when you realise how much of a budget Victoria 3 had compared to Victoria 2, yet Victoria 2 was better and everything, it doesn't excuse the state that this was released at. It's just inexcusable, it's just ridiculous. When you go back and remember my points about how the war system went through all these iterations and all that. So yeah, let me just take a glass of water here. Give me a second. I think I'll talk about the super chats I've had in a sec here, before we move on to the second half of this paragraph. Oh my god. I'm trying to get a list of all the super chats here. This is so frustrating, but I only see one from Artorius. But yeah, Artorius, with your super chat, thank you so much for the $5.99. I'm not going to get them all. It doesn't give me a full list of all the super chats I've had. Someone joined the membership at the start of the stream. Can I scroll back and look at this? Well, Farbu Yosbe gave a cope of 4,000, which is like $1 in whatever Latin American currency that is. Luigi Cadorna Simulator, the game. Thank you for that. I want to thank the person who joined the channel membership towards the start of the stream. I couldn't get you. And Opraner says, it was always going to go like this. Spud Martin openly admitted on the Something Awful forums years ago in the AAR that he didn't like Vicky 2. Thank you for the $5 Australian, Opraner. If you could, like, it's one thing to like sort of say hearsay, well, he said this on the forums years ago. What I'm looking for is always the actual quote. I have been rigorous in my sourcing of evidence and all that in my discussions of Vic 3, as you know from the War System video, so I'm not going to comment on that Martin openly saying he didn't like Vicky 2 until you get me an actual quote, and preferably context as well. So thank you for that, but maybe if you can get me some further information, that would be great. And then, yeah, Artorius, thank you for the $5. You said start from scratch again to sell it later. That is exactly, that's the cynical reasoning for why they've gone down this take away all the content from DLCs when they release the sequel and then redo the DLCs to sell it to you again. That is cynical, but probably true about Paradox. We know what they're like with DLC. It's money. So that's probably why they released CK3 with so little content. And that could be why they've released Victoria 3 in this state. So thank you for that. And lastly, Palaya, thank you for a 6-month membership, I believe. Thank you. Evidence, question mark? No. So now that I've handled those super chats, hopefully I won't be able to miss the next ones that come through when I do them. But so the next bit. In Victoria 3 function, we have no intention of moving back to Moore's tactical system. This is a sad reminder, but it's nothing surprising. I didn't really say this in the War System video, but I had absolutely zero intention that they would ever U-turn. It would be embarrassing for them. It's just, you know, they were never going to turn around and go back to the moving around system. And this actually leads me on to the next part of my video that was completely vindicated and turned out to be true from this dev diary, which is... yes. Right, so, if we go back up to here, the section in my Victoria 3 video, the War System video, entitled Improving the War System Within Its Own Limitations, a little section I did. I didn't elaborate much on this section. So in that section, I basically said, I went into a couple of examples of the direction that they will go down with Victoria 3 to add more to their warfare system, where I thought it was completely lacking. And two of those ways that I directly mentioned in my video are here, in this bullet point list, in their what they intend to do in the future with warfare. The first one is find solutions for when theatre is split into multiple fronts. Yeah, I actively suggested that if they want to improve their current war system, they would allow for the creation of more fronts, even within one border. And the ability to set strategic objectives. I also directly mentioned that in the Victoria 3 war system video. My video is aging so well, isn't it, guys? Someone in the chat asked the perfect question that I'm now going to go on to, which is that a good thing or not? Improving their current war system, the disaster that it currently is a good thing. Yes. On the face of it, objectively, it is, you know, on its own a good thing. If they improve their current war system and, you know, use its limitations to, you know, do what they can within it, then making it better, yeah. Will it ever be as good as what I believe the Victoria 2 system and the potential that the compromise I talked about in the video could have been? Of course not, nowhere near it. But there is a possibility that over time, with their DLC and improvements, they might make this current war system something completely non-diabolic as it currently is. However, also what I mentioned in the video was, I have a note here, yeah, how Paradox, the Vic3 developers, how they're wrestling with how they want to add more stuff to war, like the ability to set strategic objectives, the ability to add more front lines. They're wrestling with how they want to add that without going against the philosophy of their war system, which is to take away player agency and to make it quote-unquote strategic and allow you to manage other things instead of doing warfare. So there's clearly a lot of discussion going on within the Vic3 system about how they manage that, how they get that silly balance of how they improve and add what I said, I put up in words on that video, oops, you just added micro. When they give you the ability to set front lines, extra front lines, and when they give you the ability to add objectives, they're giving you management, they're giving you micromanagement. They are, in a sense, implicitly saying that I was right and that the player needs more agency. But I just want to point out that every time they do claw back something in terms of management in the war system, they are vindicating me. I know a lot of people will hate me for saying that, but just on a pure logical, basic fucking point, it is a vindication. It's not the complete vindication. They'll never, add fucking the actual management that I want, but yeah. Currently, like I said, the AI, your generals, will just push for war goals and the enemy capital city. You have no choice in that matter. I also want to point out something. I didn't actually manage to source this just before my stream. I forgot to get it. There was a large post on the Paradox forums about the code behind the war system and how nonsensical it was and how much stuff was hidden. Does anyone have that? Because that's really important, and it goes to show how it just attests more to my points about how unfinished, broken, and unpolished and bad the war system is. And we all know the reasons for that I went over. It's just more attestation of that, more evidence that proves me right. So if anyone could link that right now, I might try and get it on the screen and show you as another point here. Also, while someone sources that, just ignoring a few things, I wanted to point out, if we go, the second comment, look at this. It's based Lord Lambert putting out a comment against the lack of return to tactics. Shout out to Lord Lambert, he has been absolutely banging on about the war system in complete agreement with me, and I support him. yeah, shout out to him. We had him on a stream as well a while ago. I should have him on again. I should have him on this stream, but he's so right about the war system. And yes, you can see the voting. You can see the voting. To be quite honest with you, I'm surprised that it got this many upvotes, quote unquote upvotes. I would have expected it to just get 5 million X's. Lord Lamb based, yeah. So yeah, I'm glad he got that comment in. If anything, you know, it doesn't, the comment isn't really productive or anything, but it just shows that there is still always going to be the backlash to what they've done with the military system. It just keeps proving that the system, you know, it divided the community. It was just terribly, you know, again, divisive. And just go back to my Victoria 3 war system video and I show how they didn't have to do this. There was so much more. But yeah, Lord Lambert has videos about the war system. He has playthroughs of Victoria 3 on his channel. Check them out. Feel free. Go drop him a subscription and then come back to my stream for now. All that. Very good. Yeah. And I guess the good thing, you know, Lord Lambert, I've sort of, you know, he's someone who has had sponsorships and deals and been there with Paradox in the past, and his views on Victoria 3 also give it a lot of positives. He's not, you know, a pure hater. He is completely, you know, logical and critical of this war system, and it's good, you know. Someone who's on my quote-unquote side, although my side, my whole argument is I wish we had a compromise. ISP as well. Nah, ISP doesn't give a fuck about the war system. He criticised Victoria 3 for other things, which were also valid. But he completely dismissed criticism of the war system and accused people of unfairly reviewing negatively the game. Really, like, which I think his criticism of that was unfair, no evidence. ISP said on Twitter at some time about some people who are going in, buying Victoria 2, and then they dislike the war system 0.2 hours and then negatively reviewing it or something, which is not really... He's like downplaying the negative reviews of Victoria 3 for that. And I actually replied to his tweet asking him to show more examples, and he didn't reply to me at all. So I think it was kind of, you know, his criticisms, his other criticisms of Victoria 3 in terms of the failures of the economy, you know, they're all valid, but I believe that coupled with the war system problems that I've talked about makes for a pretty bad game. He thinks that the bad reviews are just people hating on Vic3 just to hate it. It is a straw man. It actually is a straw man. Also, even if he did find one example of someone giving an unfairly soon negative review, that is just one person. That's a single anecdote. I'm looking for trends, I'm looking for evidence, I'm looking for, you know, anything more than just one single fucking... Now, I've used single anecdotes of Steam reviews. I certainly have. I've used single anecdotes of really bad positive Steam reviews. However, I make it very clear that I am only taking one, and I'm not trying to make a wider trend out of it. I'm not trying to say, oh, this must mean that all the positive reviews are like this. But ISP directly did that, actually. He actually did he did say something that implied or said that it was a wider trend of people doing this. But in any case, I think I have covered the two major points where this Dev Diary agrees with me. There was also another thing I wanted to talk about. Yes, here we go. Experiment with some autonomous private sector construction. It's a whole big, you know, another big critique I would have of Victoria 3 is the complete lack of capitalists automating things for you in the economy, and how this means that Victoria 3 is just purely a building simulator, a trade route simulator, and constantly microing every aspect of your economy. The fact that they are going to maybe already talking about experimenting with autonomous private sector construction, i.e. capitalists, I think that is just another vindication of that critique, and they're accepting it. Now, when they're talking about making improvements to stuff, Don't get me wrong, I'm not dismissing them making improvements and saying, oh, I don't care. It is good that they're going to make improvements, and it is good that they've recognised that some private sector autonomy would be good. However, my overall point, and I've definitely said this a few times, is don't forget what they released. They released the game as it was, they shilled it, they marketed it, all the content creators pushed it, got people to download it. It became a top seller, if not the top seller on Steam, before it was released. People bought it. So people bought it on what I actually believe are false pretenses, marketed. And then they released what they got, you know, what was released on release day. I don't think we should fail to point that out. I think we should keep pointing that out. I don't want to let Paradox get away with releasing shit on their, you know, the first release day. People give them a lot of credit. People say, oh, well, they fixed things later. I'm personally of the opinion that it's bad to release an unfinished broken game. Unless, now here's the big unless they give it the early access tag. Every Paradox game that gets released should technically be an early access. It actually is. They keep developing it. They always add more stuff. Sell problems and sell the solutions. Yeah, that sort of thing. Paradox games are early access every time. Early access or beta. Yeah, sure. One of those. But like I said, I also talked about that in the War System video. I talked about the dishonesty of it. I called it dishonest. So my point is already out there, viewed 100k times. So, you know, I guess I won't change anything myself, but I just believe it's really important to get the truth out there. Like I said earlier, like no content creators, Paradox themselves have not even acknowledged the War System video. But the truth is there, and the truth has been viewed 100k times, and I'm happy with that. Like the Victoria 2 multiplayer community, the Victoria 2 community, we've been pushed aside, you know, they don't give a fuck about us if not actually actively hating us. However, as we've gone down, I've gone down fighting, and I've gone down telling the truth. And I've gone down exposing them and showing stuff for what it is. So even if we do get pushed out, and even if I do get inspired by all this shit to leave Paradox and go and do other games instead, at least I will have told the truth and exposed everything as we left. And that's all I can hope for, really, because they're not turning around, they're not adding tactics back, they're not adding micromanagement back to the game. All I can do is keep just pointing out and exposing the truth. PDX censored themselves from their own game, evil capitalists, in brackets. Let's go and look at a couple of super chats I got, if I can possibly find them. Weechula, thank you very much for the €2. It just works. Hey, at least the whole Fallout 76 and all that. Some places get the right backlash that they deserve, but Paradox keep getting away with it. Brady says, I just can't fathom how they would throw away the basic formula that worked for one that would unequivocally divide their player base. Yeah, that absolutely. Yeah, you put it well said. And thanks for the £5. And Neo Pangean. Sorry I missed the last couple of streams, keep up the good work. Appreciate it, thanks so much for the $5. Right, another point I wanted to raise about this dev diary on the stream is the following. What I call the Paradox paradox. On the one hand, in this dev diary, they don't want to piss off the community by promising a big DLC already. They don't want to promise a big DLC for a game that has 63% reviews on Steam quite yet, because that would really go down badly. People would call them greedy. All the criticisms of the DLC would come out if they took this dev diary and promised a DLC on it. However, the paradox, they also have a massive obligation to the people who got the Grand Edition, promising the first expansion. They have a huge obligation to fill. They have to provide a really solid, good expansion that costs money. They have to give the Grand Edition payers what they paid for. How are they going to balance that? How are they going to do that without pissing off the community? Well, it looks like for now they're doing it by just putting off the first expansion for now. You know, yeah, this is it. Right now they're only talking about free updates and patches, but at some point they will talk about the first DLC. Not yet. Basically, it's too soon. It's too soon. But if I were a Grand Edition purchaser, I would be, you know, I mean, I don't know why the fuck anyone would be stupid enough to buy that Grand Edition, but if you are someone who did that, let's, you know, just hypothetically imagine you're that stupid for a second. No offense, you know, I'm just, okay, look, I take it back. People who bought the Grand Edition aren't stupid. Okay, I'm sorry for calling people stupid like that. I don't actually mean it. I will just say questionable consumer choice, okay? It was a questionable consumer choice to buy the Grand Edition. But if you are someone who bought the Grand Edition, you should be, you know, you want to get your value for money. Although, to be fair, if you did buy the Grand Edition and they release a DLC that adds fucking nothing, just if they release a purely cosmetic expansion and you got the Grand Edition and you feel fucked over, it is your own fault. However, to be real, you know, they do have an obligation. There is an obligation. They have to provide a damn good DLC to those people. And to anyone who will just buy the DLC individually as well. And there's going to be so much controversy about the pricing of it. And do you know who's going to be there discussing that DLC whenever it comes out? Do you know who's going to be right there? The one person that the big Vic3 soy Reddit community don't want to be discussing it? Yeah, me. I'll be there. I'm not going anywhere. Some of the Vic3 community really don't like me talking about Vic3. They really don't want me around. They really want me. I saw this post on the Paradox forum. I couldn't quite find it. I don't know. Talking about, like, addressing Vic2 players, saying Vic3's better. Fuck you. A lot of Vic3 players are really intolerant of Vic2 players. They really want us to just get on with Vic3 and shut up about Vic2. But I won't. I'm here. Much to their chagrin, I will still be here. Always plugging away at Vic3. I am going back to Vic2 content, of course. I am actively editing Vic2 content once again over the past few days. I'm right back in that. Expect Vic2 multiplayer normal video next week on Friday. I might go back to the Friday schedule, at least until Christmas, where I will be gone again. Christmas is just around the corner. Can you hear All I Want for Christmas Is You? Can you hear the bells in the background? Anyway, let's look at a couple of super chats. Jaden says, pretty map build simulator. I liked my units pops. Yeah. Thank you very much for the $199. Was there any more? Another super chat? No, that's it. Right until Varion's one. If you have ever played a Paradox game, you should know not to ever pre-order one of their games. Yeah, thanks Varion so much. That's true. Oh, there's a lot of super chats. I'll get to them, but I'll start with Varion's one about pre-ordering. Whoa. Oh, hold on, right. About pre-ordering, right? So, there was a point where the Spiffing Brit actually went onto one of my community posts talking about his sponsorship. And by the way, all respect to the Spiffing Brit. Good content creator. His video on Vic3, I believe, wasn't a misleading advertised video like certain others. It was just him doing his thing. Nothing wrong with it. And he said one thing in his comments. He said that consumers have to make their own decisions about pre-ordering and all that in regards to sponsored videos and marketing. And yes, in theory, consumers should make smart decisions and, resist marketing. However, in practice, they don't. Marketing works. That's why it exists. People will be swayed and even misled in some cases into buying a product that is unfinished, bad, or broken. Unfortunately, that happens, and I believe it happened to an extent with Victoria 3. And one of the main things I've been doing is just coming in and just fucking encouraging decent consumer behaviour in terms of not pre-ordering. I encourage people not to pre-order. I never encourage people not to buy Victoria 3 at any point. If you want to buy Victoria 3, go ahead, but I just encourage not to pre-order. And because it got to 63% reviews on Steam, because it was so broken, bare bones, war system a complete catastrophe on release, I don't like to brag that much about being completely vindicated, but at the same time, yeah, I was completely vindicated. Fuck you, I'm right. You know, I have to. For all the hate I get, you know, for all this shit, I do want to brag about how I'm proven right all the time over this. Also, let's go back to the other super chats. Eric says, I think a reason for the toxic defense of the game is the content creator ad campaign. Critiquing the game equals critiquing your favourite content creator subconsciously. Maybe. Thanks so much for the $10 super chat, I appreciate it. Yeah, if you want to try and psychologically work out why there's so much hate for people who critique Vic3 and such hate for the Vic2 community, it's quite difficult. I don't have anything. It's the realm of speculation and psychological armchair, you know, armchair psychology. I don't really want to get into that. I can't really say. I don't know. Could be a reason. I don't know. People, like humans, are predisposed to be tribal and latch themselves onto causes. And if someone is in the out group, I'm going way back to basic human monkey brain here to explain this. But when you're in the out group, Victoria 2 is currently the out group in, you know, the Vic3 community. They hate us. 1,000 years ago, they would have just killed us all. But we live in a more civilized time, so we express it through hate online. It's ridiculous. Who knows? It's funny. It's all funny. Let's try and read this Cyrillic name. Alakritsa? Alakritsa. Bruh, I bought the American building pack. Best invest. Well, thank you for the $2 super chat. If you want to look, the American building pack, I cannot complain too much about. I don't have any real complaints towards cosmetic DLC and additions. Cosmetic stuff is a perfect example of, if you want to buy a cosmetic thing, buy it. If you don't want it, don't buy it. I don't have a problem with Paradox adding a single cosmetic thing. Victoria 2 has cosmetic things. Cosmetic units, funnily enough. It's if you want to buy prettier units, you can get some Victoria 2 DLC. Neopanjane says, I think one of the biggest flaws for me is Paradox's lack of care for historical accuracy. Like, come on, Orania, Transvaal in 1836, made up countries. It's a bare minimum. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. It's really difficult to research and source and get all the countries and pops right for 1836, but yeah, I mean, it's complicated. They did a certain amount of work on that in Victoria 2. What I really think is lacking is simply just improving on Victoria 2. So Victoria 2 laid down all the countries and pops in 1836, and since Victoria 2 came out, there's been loads of people pointing out mistakes. There's been lots of mods that added the flavour and got things right. Yet Victoria 3 comes out again and just starts again with so many more mistakes. They didn't seem to learn from the last 12 years. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, repackaging, reselling it as DLC and all that. And the CK3 experience. Steady Snap ET, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. I bet they had a plan for DLC and they're either rethinking it due to lack of quality. Yeah, again, it goes to speculation, but I don't know. I mean, the backlash might mean that they've gone for a more emphasise the free updates and patch fixes, and this also goes to another point. People trying to shut down backlash towards Victoria 3 are just absolutely insane. Backlash actually means that Paradox will be more likely to fix things and improve things for free, i.e. like they did with Imperator Rome. Backlash is actually so important, and if there are mistakes in Victoria 3, you should point them out, and you should give them stick for it, without verging on hatred. Respectfully give them stick, respectfully scrutinise. That is how you get them to give you free updates. The people shutting down that scrutiny are just making such a big mistake for that reason, and that's putting it lightly. You know, let's go down a bit, see what the next ones were. Palaya actually gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much, Palaya. Appreciate it very much. And I believe someone else just became a member on their own. Did they? Yeah. Cool G, Furlough. Thank you so much for becoming a Craftsman member. Also, Sus Lord with a capybara profile pic just gave a $10 super chat and didn't elaborate, no message. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Right. I've just fucking absolutely spewed out so many points and everything. I was thinking of getting Zombie on the stream to make more points and everything, but I really kind of like how condensed this stream has been and how many points I've gotten out in quick succession here, that I think I'm actually going to end the stream possibly about the hour mark and leave it as a public video on my main channel that really narrows in on so many good points, because I think we've killed it here. Gotten so many good points, so many things on this stream that I've let out that I've really wanted to say and get out on a video, and it's been really good. And oh, by the way, funny, here's they want to improve the American Civil War. Now, the annoying thing about them now, oh, the sex bot in the chat. The really annoying thing about them now wanting to improve the American Civil War is the fact that the American Civil War was shown to be completely fucking broken on one of their pre-release streams. Particularly the one where they played Prussia. And I highlighted it, I zoomed in on it in my war system video. So the problem was clearly there with the American Civil War before release. They actively showed it to us, laughed about it, and didn't fix it for release, and now they're talking about fixing it after release. That is just a pure example of releasing shit broken, but this time it's one where they can actually clearly see it before fucking release. It's insane. Just why do they get away with releasing such absolute broken shit? Mord says, if they just had the war system for Vic2, I would really not complain. Me neither, absolutely. However, it's important that you raise that. Thank you for the 35, I believe that's South African rand. Thank you. So, Mord. I said this yesterday, actually, on my Vic2 stream, but I'll say it again, just to capture it on a Vic3 related stream. I personally would have been happy if they just had exact same war system, with a couple of nice improvements and bug fixes. Pure micromanagement. The Vic2 multiplayer community as it is would be happy with that. That's no surprise, we know that. However, I am very much aware of the other aspects of the Vic2 community, the single player people, and the people who are now generally supportive of the current system. Which is why, in my war system video, I laid out the compromise that would have pleased both of those sides. So, instead of just entrenching myself within the purest, elitist Victoria 2 multiplayer attitude, I recognised I went out on a limb. I gave an olive branch out to the other elements of the community and argued for a compromise. I didn't have to, but I convinced myself that through reasoning and going over it in my own head, and I realised that, yes, actually, we should go for a compromise so that the game could actually happen, because releasing the game with exactly the same war system probably wouldn't, I don't know, probably wouldn't have been exactly viable. Well, if they, actually no, I take that back, it would, in a certain sense it might not have been viable, but if they left the war system as it was so that they could use their time and release a better version of the diplomacy and the economy in particular, and have the economy be less flawed, then yeah, that would have been good for the game, I guess. Would have pleased the people who wanted a nice new economy and whatnot. But I think you get my point now. Bob, wait, hold on, let me scroll back up. I don't know why people keep saying third position. It's just basic compromising. The concept of a compromise is what I'm going for here. Michael says, wait, no, I think there was one before that. Yes, Bob Dole says, Backlash is racist. I'm the CEO of 2 companies and one of them deals in mass amounts of backlash. What is it? Bob Dole? A Bob Dole company? But yeah, thank you very much for the $5. Michael says, the main problem is PDX games are regressing. Hoi 4 took 7 years to add Divisional Commander, something Hoi 3 had on release in 2009. Yeah, like just a good example from the Hoi. A good example from the Hoi franchise about the regressing and getting rid of stuff that was added in the prequel and then reselling it. Absolutely true. Glovebox, thank you for the kind message and the £5. I appreciate it. Anyway, Dole Company is making a joke about the lashing. Okay, just be quiet. I don't know what this... Don't be talking about something. You didn't respond to any non-super chat questions. I know, I've been focusing on the super chats and making this really streamlined. That's what I said. And I also said that my chat window keeps glitching out, as it has done again. So, in fact, as a matter of fact, the 2 messages I just responded to from JC and Palaya are actually way back in the chat, which goes to show how broken my chat is. However, Friendly Merchant says Vic3 art style just looks ugly and too cartoony. Thank you for the 70 South African Rand. I appreciate that. Critiques about the art and all that, I don't know. That's kind of subjective, to be honest. I liked Vic 2 and how it looked as it was. Vic 3 doesn't look disgustingly bad to me. Doesn't matter. My main critique about how Vic 3 looks is how when you zoom in and go to the terrain, it forces you to the terrain map mode, whereas I think the zoomed out political screen looks good. That's my main, aesthetical critique of the game. And Bogdan asks or says, I love your harring PDX games, would rather send money to you than those mofos. Thank you, Bogdan, for the 25 lei from Romania. Ron. I was caught washing horses for 25 Ron. Or caught discussing Victoria 3 for 25 Ron. That's your choice as a consumer. However, I don't condone piracy. Piracy is terrible. And the fact that I cannot clamp down on piracy myself is terrible. The fact that I can't police people's DMs asking for pirate links is just... I can't believe it. Anyway, we're going to be wrapping up the stream now. I'm going to just leave it as an hour-long thing. Sorry, Zombie. I actually asked Zombie if he was available, but it's fine. I want to leave it as it is, and I said why. Oh, the last point I make is, in the Victoria 3 war video, I didn't talk about the actual mechanics of the war system. I talked about more the direction. And I believe that is going to lead it to age better, because the specific mechanics and how they're broken might change. But the overall direction is the critique that will last. So I believe I just think, I'm glad I did that. I think it'll turn out to age well. It already has aged well, as I just showed you on the stream. Aged well after the first couple of weeks, first week after release of the game. So I will be calling the stream now. Thanks so much, everyone. I have just blasted out everything I wanted to say about Victoria 3. Well, not everything. I've still got loads of other points. I haven't even touched on the economy or the politics or anything. If you want my quick views, I actually think the politics system is good, and the economy is, it's alright. Too much to manage. Way too much micro. You never quite get to a point with the Vic3 economy where you're satisfied with it. There's always too much to do. Always something else you can manage. But yeah, don't focus on my economic critiques. I might do another whole fucking stream or video on that when I know more or anything. Or I guess maybe when I want to talk about the economy, that's when I'll get Zombie on, because Zombie knows what he's talking about there. I'm your war man. I'm a heavy weapons guy. Alright, I believe we have another super chat here to go to before I end the stream. Thanks so much for watching it, everyone, and I really, really appreciate every super chat and membership and gifted membership, guys. I hope you have a good day, Spud. Your videos are so fun to watch. Thank you so much, Varion. I appreciate it. I appreciate you all. Thanks so much. I'm going to leave this as a public video on my main channel, and I'm going to put it in the Victoria 3 Discussions playlist. We've covered many good points, and now I will go. Let's leave it at exactly an hour long. Thank you so much, everyone. That's it. At some point, I will continue the Courland Victoria 2 single player run, and check out all the things I linked to and everything I shouted out. Gaku, Lord Lambert, all that stuff. Thanks, everyone. Bye.